Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan. Welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. I gotta stop saying that. I've turned into McDonald's, DJ. I just realized this. Where I've complained for years about the McDonald's drive-through, where now when you go in there, they're real presumptuous. They always say "Welcome back." I've gotten that way on the channel, where I just assume that if I realized this about myself recently, and I've gotten really self-conscious about it. I just did it again, and I'm like, I can't say "Welcome back." What if this is somebody's first time? You know? I mean, I don't want to be Stan Lee and say that every Geekvolution video is somebody's first Geekvolution video, because that's probably not true. Especially with certain of them. But yeah, you know, I always assume that we have the audience we have, and we don't have a whole lot of new faces. But lately, I've been seeing a lot more, first-time commenters and super chatters and stuff, and so I gotta quit saying that, DJ. Anyway, my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez. In case you've never been here before.
Yeah, first time. I just read the questions. If you're just joining us, I just read the questions.
You know, I feel like you're really like belittling your role.
Hey, that's the best way. Under promise, over deliver. That's my motto.
Yeah, is it self-deprecating, or is it just putting the standard real low so that you're more impressive?
Putting the standards in the floor, like you say. I've never heard anyone else say that, but I like the way you put that.
In the floor? Yeah, I don't know if that's like Southern colloquialism or what. Every now and again, I'll have somebody that either gives me crap or is just kind of scratching their brain about something that I'll say, and I'm like, I heard that all growing up. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we all got our little corners where we hear things.
Because sometimes it's colloquialism, and sometimes it's just that thing your dad said that you assumed everybody else said, right?
Yeah, sometimes they're just family things that you think is just nationwide, and it's not. Sometimes your parents just pick up goofy things.
Well, I should feel bad about that, because I know my kids will have no fewer than 12 of those with me. All the stuff that I make up and then just keep saying, yeah. Anyway, welcome everybody to the Captain Logan Show.
Because cheese. They're going to tell their grandkids because cheese someday.
They're going to be like, where does that come from? Oh, that goes way back, man. Shakespeare came up with because cheese. I think that's in The Tempest, maybe, because cheese. Yeah,
that's got to be it.
Anyway, it's going to be a real fun, relaxed, kind of haphazard, loosey-goosey Captain Logan show tonight. This is our last one before my vacation. I'm going to be out for the next couple of Wednesdays, I think. DJ, I don't think I'll be back in time for the second Wednesday of the month, but I'm not looking at a calendar. Maybe I will be. What day is that? I didn't even check before we started the show. What day of the week? Let's see. What day of the month is the Wednesday after next week?
I'm the questions guy. I'm not the calendar guy.
I'm gonna find out.
Be the questions guy and the calendar
guy?
Hey,
you've been looking up stuff for me a lot lately. Also, you wear multiple hats. See, that's what I'm saying. You're really underestimating your importance on this show. I will almost certainly not be back yet. But. Anyway, wait, no, the 12th? Yeah, I may be able to do a show that night. I'll let you know, DJ, or the 13th. I'll let you know, DJ.
Well, we do shows on Thursdays.
Yeah,
so it'll be the 13th.
That's what I just said. Yeah, no, I corrected myself. I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I said the 12th at first, and then the 13th. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I've had my brain in other places today. My apologies. Anyway, so next Wednesday I'll be out. I may be back the Wednesday after. I'll let everybody know. Tonight we're going to talk about the new casting, the initial castings that we've gotten. I just want to start the whole show over, DJ. The initial castings that we've gotten for Superman Legacy, written and directed by James Gunn. I think they both look like real solid choices. I'll weigh in on that real briefly. I won't have a ton to say, except it looks like good choices. It looks like he's going a pretty traditional route with it, and we knew that they were going to be younger picks. I was expecting, and they are, our Superman is going to be 20. He's not going to be. He's played by a man who is I think 29, and our Lois is played by a 32-year-old actress. Both of them relatively unknown, at least in the big screen space. Although our Lois Lane, who is Rachel Brosnahan, I keep forgetting her last name,
just Rachel's.
Just finished up a long stint as the star of a TV show. She was Marvelous Miss Maisel, which I didn't even realize that's who that was, because I never watched that show. But yeah, so
You should. It's great.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I'd like to. It sounds like a neat premise. I looked that up. I haven't watched it yet, but I looked that up based on this, because I was like, that people had talked about the show. I didn't even know what it was. I knew it was period, but I didn't know what the premise of it was. So like, she is a like would be comedian or comedian, I guess, during that period in the 50s and 60s. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a really good, like, stand-up comedian. That's a really good premise. So I kind of like it.
She's real snappy, real sarcastic, real, it's perfect. I mean, it basically seems like the role that got her the job to play Lois.
Which is
I
neat.
think it's perfect casting.
Because that means she has a lot of range, because I could see her as Lois even based on the one thing I've seen her in, which is House of Cards. She's in the first 3 seasons of that, and she plays initially a prostitute in that, who is trying to get out from under the thumb of a guy that works with Frank Underwood. It's been a long time since I've watched that show, and for obvious reasons it's been difficult for me to go back to that show. And then that show, the end of it's terrible, so I doubt that I'll ever watch it again. But with not just the Kevin Spacey thing, but then he leaves, and the last season is absolutely unwatchable. I mean, it gets to like it gets to a Discovery or like Iron Fist kind of place in its writing. I mean, it's really awful by the end, but that's kind of sad. But I don't mean that she should play Lois because she was a prostitute. I just mean that there is a somewhat more like serious, darker side sometimes to that character. I can see why she might sometimes, as Lois Lane, want to tap into that. So knowing that she's got a spunkier, bouncier kind of role, I imagine that she'll kind of sandwich those things together in order to play Lois Lane for a James Gunn movie, where I imagine there'll be a little bit more pathos, if not tragedy, in that character. Would be my guess. But I guess we're just in the middle of talking about that now, so I'll go ahead and mention our Superman now, who is David Corenswet, and he was in a movie that Austin loved last year that I didn't see, called Pearl, and I went and looked at a couple of clips from that movie in preparation for this. I didn't have time to watch the whole thing, and it's not really my bag anyway. I don't know that I actually want to sit through that whole movie, but I respect it. I respect a kind of like 70s, 80s type like slasher picture, which is what that kind of looks like to me. And I kind of see why he was considered in the first place, maybe just based on that movie, because it takes place in the Midwest, and I think that's also a period piece, maybe. Just looking at the clips that I saw. I don't know when that takes place, 30s, 40s. So, somebody will tell me in the comments, I'm sure. But he looks, I mean, it looks like Smallville. Like, they're in a lot of cornfields and around farms and stuff in that movie. And he definitely looks like a Clark Kent type there. Of course, folks that are, and I knew this was inevitable, like when I saw his picture as being in the running maybe for Superman, and by the way, I tried not to look too much about actors they were considering, especially after James Gunn said, yes, some of that's true, some of that's not. And I'm like, well, this all sounds like a waste of time. Let's just wait and find out, who gets cast, and then we can talk about it. Now we have actual confirmed casting, so now I'm happy to talk more about it. We'll do the same thing with Lex Luthor, if there is a Lex Luthor. I'm sure there is. When that ends up being full-on cast, there's been a lot of talk that I want to say rumor, we just don't know for sure, but people seem pretty sure about the idea that they're looking at both of the Skarsgård brothers for Lex Luthor, which is kind of interesting. Like, if you have to go up against your own brother, but yeah. Both of us make sense for this role. One of us is going to get it. It'd be really funny if they found a reason to cast them both. They did like a Lex squared kind of thing, but they're male. I don't know.
Do whatever you want, yeah. Lex is just twins in this universe.
Yeah, or there's like already a clone of Lex, but he just looks a little bit less like himself, But anyway, so I kind of when I saw pictures initially of Corenswet, I immediately went, oh no, he looks close enough to Cavill.
Yeah.
That all of the people that are angry that Henry Cavill didn't stay cast, that he's not being used for Superman moving forward, are going to be really angry that they picked somebody that looks so much like him. And then I looked at, like I said, clips from that movie, and DJ, he does. Right, and I'm also, by the way, hearing a lot of people on the other side, people more like me that are glad that they're rebooting and that think this guy looks like a good choice for Superman, saying, well, is it that he looks like Cavill, or is it that Cavill looks like Superman? And that anybody that looks enough like comic book Superman that you go with is going to some degree, with jawline and stuff, kind of remind you of Henry Cavill. There's maybe some truth to that. And when I was looking at clips from Pearl, I found myself reminded as much of Tom Welling as Henry Cavill. And he's just a few years older than Tom Welling was when he was cast as Clark. And I feel like he is very much, in mannerism and in the face, just from what little I've seen of this actor now, kind of a 50-50 split between those two actors. He's got a little bit of Welling. He's got a little bit of Henry Cavill, and yeah, if you're going to recast, he seems perfect. He seems like absolutely the right guy, and I'm very excited about their Lois Lane pick. So
Yeah.
far, everything sounds like it's firing on all cylinders from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I'm with you. Sounds great. I know absolutely nothing about him, and that's how I like it. I want my Superman to be unknown, and I just want to see him as Superman. And now looking at him, he's got a strong jaw, he's got black hair, he's got a subtle little widow's peak. He looks just like Superman.
He's got that little widow's peak. Yep.
So yeah, hope
more
he's great.
analysis do you need?
Yeah.
Looks good enough. Let's hope the man can act. Here we go. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, we're very much back at a Christopher Reeve place, right? Where here's this relatively unknown actor that hasn't done much yet, that not a lot of people know. I mean,
Tom Welling hadn't done anything. I didn't know.
Welling hadn't done anything. This guy at least has a movie under his belt that people I know have seen.
Yeah.
And maybe he's got one or two other things.
Yeah, and Cavill had, I'm sure, done a couple things, but I didn't know who he was in 2013. So
he was also pretty unknown. Yeah. And we've got a track record for this now. I mean, I say now, we did before, right? Has there ever been a Superman actor that was very known? Even on television, we've usually gone to relatively unknown actors.
I feel like you kind of have to, because otherwise it kind of just looks like, oh, that's that famous actor dressing up in a Superman costume, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could make the case that traditionally we've done this for major superheroes in general, where you try to go for somebody that's not already known too much for another thing. There are obviously exceptions to that. Captain America, there was an exception to that because he had already been a superhero. He was Human Torch.
Yeah, and Robert Downey was already well known by when he was doing Iron Man.
Yeah, but that's a horse of a different color. That's almost like the exception that proves the rule, right? Because Robert Downey was well known for a career of movies that he kind of stepped back for a while and then came back. So that was almost like in the middle of or the start of like a second career. But also, he didn't have the kind of career, and I'm not going to say character actor because he had starred in films, but he also had done a lot of ensemble stuff, right? But I don't think people that knew Downey from things when he got Iron Man were looking at him and going, oh yeah, like associating him with just one particular role, right? And that's what you really don't want for like a Batman or a Superman or an Iron Man or a Spider-Man, is like there's that one role they're already associated with. Like you wouldn't have, for instance, somebody that had played a starship captain for 7 years on a Star Trek show that would then get Batman. Like that would probably never happen.
Yeah, people are saying that Nicolas Cage was the closest we got to a well-known actor playing Superman.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. If that had actually happened. And of course, you did have that with Ghost Rider. And like I said, there are certainly exceptions. And a decent number of them now. But I'm just going back into history and thinking, no, we do this more often than I'm giving it credit for.
Yeah. I think that's the best. I mean, I wish that would, obviously actors got to act and they got to do more than one thing, but it takes you out when you see someone too many times, unless it's like a Tim Burton or a Wes Anderson where they use the same actors in all their movies. like a traveling theater group.
Well, and we had and we had the problem. We still do to some degree, but I think it's loosened up quite a bit. You'll have that problem where, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. Where it's like, if you're not very well known, then maybe you have a shot at a superhero like this being your big break, right? But then once you get that role, everybody identifies you, everybody associates you with that character. So then how difficult is it to find work after that? And obviously that was difficult for Christopher Reeve and lots of other actors. And again, Star Trek, all those actors from the original series had that problem, and Brent Spiner with TNG and a lot of other actors. These days, it's not as bad.
Well, I would say the closest we have today is Tom Holland, who got a bunch of roles right out the gate, but
he kept picking projects nobody liked.
Took off, and he's kind of just had to go back to Spider-Man because those all bombed. So I don't know.
That's true, but not for lack of trying. It's not the same situation where you can't get work. It's that it was kind of the opposite. It was more like Disney treating him like the new golden child. They kept putting him in stuff. It wasn't just Disney, but Disney was also trying to put him in other stuff, and then none of that was hitting. None of that was flying. But I mentioned that to say that Cavill has actually at least continued to act.
Oh, yeah. He's been doing a lot of stuff.
He wasn't pigeonholed. He's had a lot of misfires. He's had a lot of stuff that either stopped prematurely or didn't turn out to be real great and didn't, go for a big franchise or anything. But he's continued to work. Mm-hmm. Although that's also an interesting case because his Superman was only sort of popular in comparison. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people didn't accept that. Especially after Justice League. Or after, BVS and then Justice League. I know some people would be angry with me for saying it like that it was only sort of popular, but, it's not that Christopher Reeve thing. He's not... I think Cavill is almost universally beloved as far as I think people recognize he was a good casting choice.
Yeah.
But the projects haven't been.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to get into some super chats about it, but go ahead.
Before we do that, I wanted to ask you a question because I thought of this today, and this was kind of the other connecting topic I wanted to talk about for a second related to this because I was thinking about how Cavill fans were going to be upset about this. Of course, they were going to be upset no matter who got cast because now it's very real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We knew that the reboot was happening. We knew they were going to cast somebody, but now it's solidified. There's no chance that project gets. Well, I mean, there's always a chance, but that project's not going to get nicked now. It's going to move forward. It's ironclad now.
Yeah.
Do you think that the smarter move? I almost want to say I'm playing devil's advocate when I say this, but this is a stray thought I had today. I'm going to start just calling this the Stray Thought Show. As always, guys, leave super chats at any dollar amount if you want to make sure that we talk about whatever you want us to talk about throughout the show. We're going to go to questions right after this, and we're going to give you guys the reins for the rest of the couple of hours. But, DJ, do you think that the smarter move, or that a smart move, might have been for James Gunn to make a Man of Steel 2 and then reboot?
No. I think that would be a terrible idea.
Okay, why do you say that?
Because it's just been too long, and I don't know. I think that franchise has been dead for so long, and then you're reigniting it just to end it. Unless, I guess if you did a Dark Knight Rises type thing where you made it everything's been leading to this, and this is the end of the universe, maybe, but I wouldn't want.
It's the Henry Cavill quadrilogy. We got Man of Steel, BVS, the Snyder Cut, forget about that other Justice League, and Man of Steel 2.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they could spin it. I'm sure Snyder could have done that, but I don't know, because you'd have to bring Snyder back. The Snyder guys wouldn't be happy if you made a Man of Steel 2 and it wasn't him. So I don't know. I think you're trying to please people that are impossible to
Oh
please
yeah,
at
that's a
that
good
point.
call. Yeah, and then people like me would feel weird about it because like the same people that are rebooting are also ending this last version. So yeah, I mean, you can't make everybody happy anyway, but I just wanted to throw the idea out because if it was announced, and first of all, if that were to have happened, I don't think James Gunn should have been the person that directed it. I think it would have been a crazy person thing to do that, where he comes in, takes over, and then he makes Man of Steel 2, and then he also makes Superman Legacy, or whatever a Superman movie would be. But hear me out for a second, because I'll pitch it. I can, or not like a premise or anything, but I'll pitch you the logic behind it. Because, and I'm saying this retroactively after the Flash has been an absolute bomb, a huge failure on all counts. You don't have, because you're still going to have Aquaman 2 and you're still going to have Blue Beetle, but you're not going to have a like real definitive end of this continuity. So it just ultimately fizzles out. Aquaman 2 might try to like shove in some kind of coda at the end. I could see them doing that. But beyond something like that, it's and he couldn't have gotten it out for this year. So you wouldn't have the 10th anniversary Man of Steel thing, which would be a shame. But if you could put it out like next year or the year after, forget about the writer's strike or whatever. Let's say that didn't happen, and you could just get it out, realistically, a year and a half, couple of years after you came up with this idea. I could kind of see the logic behind. Well, we announced a Man of Steel 2. Because I think that was real, right? That was actually supposed to happen, and then it got quelched. It got stamped out when Gunn and Safran came in. I could see them going, look, let's go ahead and give the fans of this last continuity proper closure with that. We'll let Henry Cavill come back, do his big, epic, final Superman film. We'll try to actually do some justice to that. And then maybe there's a logic to fans of Henry Cavill and of the Snyder stuff. I'm with you that they would want Snyder directed. I mean, hell, why not? Just let him come back and make it. Don't let him write it. Don't let him have anything to do with the story whatsoever. But just let him come back and direct it. They wouldn't be happy about that either. So whatever. But I'm just saying, could you see maybe there being like less vitriol moving forward about it, and that that outspoken, what I want to think is an outspoken minority, would be more on board with a reboot after that? I mean, probably not.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they'll be happy with anything.
And then the question is still, how big is that group even? Because I still can't really tell, like, how many people are really upset about the reboot and that Superman Legacy isn't going to be Henry Cavill and all of that, because it's an outspoken group of people. I mean, I'm seeing more videos about that in the negative popping up than positive, but I don't actually, I never know if that's just what the algorithm is feeding me. I don't really know how many videos from other channels are being made saying, like me, saying this is a good thing. I'm excited about the reboot.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess we'll find out when Legacy comes out. And
what are the numbers?
How much money
like?
It makes?
Yeah, and that I think is all going to depend on the trailers and what direction they seem to be taking it and everything. Because I am seeing videos from people that think it was a huge misstep to drop Cavill, and I still don't really get that, because it's like, well, you've got this great Superman actor that never got to really be Superman. Why don't you just keep him? Because it's a reboot. Because keeping him around is as much of a shame as that is, doesn't fit with a creative vision. And I want to think that more people will be won over when they see what that creative vision is. It's going to depend on what that is, of course. But I am seeing videos popping up saying, after Corenswet got cast, even going, it's going to bomb. There's no way that movie makes money. And I'm like, how do you know that? How could anyone possibly say that? How does that come from anywhere but a highly emotional place?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where does it come from?
It'll just be how they sell it. I like that we're starting with Superman. I don't know how you sell a Superman movie these days except to make it very clear that he's like classic Superman in the trailers and he's smiling and he's, being, helping people and being kind and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I just don't know how you sell what I guess they'll figure it out. You can't sell it as like the big epic sci-fi thing that Man of Steel was sold at because you're going to want to get away from that vibe a little bit.
You can tell just from the casting in my mind how traditional this is going to be, or at least that'll be kind of a starting place for it. I don't mean that the movie itself won't be modern in some way, but he's going to go back to a lot of the classic trappings, and I would bet you my mortgage that everything you're talking about is how they'll sell it.
Yeah,
that it will be a happy Superman flying around saving people. I would be shocked. I'm not going to actually give you my mortgage, but I would be shocked if that's not what it was.
I don't need a mortgage. I already got a mortgage. I don't want another one.
Plushy DX says, I heard some Snyder fans begging for some kind of conclusion. And then the question is, but, would they have been happy if they got that? Like how with as much respect as I can muster, how much entitlement is in some of that group? Where like, okay, so we're getting that last movie, but it's not anything like what we wanted, so we're still super angry. Like can you make
and
that
Snyder
happy?
knew that the Snyder Cut was his last movie.
Yeah.
He could have done some kind of conclusion. Instead, he adds a random Martian Manhunter scene that points to the future and a stupid Joker scene. Why didn't he film something else? What were those there for?
Yeah. He could have taken the $15 he got to make those scenes and had some kind of conclusion. Yeah.
Or just
some
not
kind of send-off.
More stuff, like setting up more stuff. Like
yeah, exactly. Be better not to have any of that. Resolution is the word I was gonna say. And as I always say, I don't mean to step on anybody's opinion. If you didn't want to reboot, I don't agree with you, but if you really needed that conclusion, or you really wanted this to keep going, or you really wanted more Cavill movies at the expense of still having to hang on to all the baggage, like certainly you're entitled to that. I get that. But I do think that there is this like just kind of angry small core group of Snyder fans that weren't going to be happy no matter what we did.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. But anyway, let's... you know what? Let me read this comment real quick. Ren Davis says, Zack Snyder didn't write Man of Steel, BVS, or Justice League. They were all terrible, although he did have influence on the story for BVS and Justice League. And that's what I meant when I said, don't let him write it. Like, I get he didn't write dialogue, but he had too much control over the skeleton of those stories and where it was all going. Okay, I'm going to stop doing your job and reading all the comments. Apologies.
No worries. Josh Calisano, $2. I'm so happy about the Superman movie casting. Yay. He says yay. He's very happy about it.
I knew he would be. I would have also bet my mortgage that Josh would be happy about this casting. No, it sounds great.
MP gives us $4.99. I like the castings being so traditional. It's not like the Eisenberg Lex casting where it feels like the movie going, our version is different.
Yeah. Definitely. And after it's been this long since we've had, a more traditional Superman, it makes sense to kind of go back to the basics.
Yeah.
And I think you can expect some reinvention still. I think in a lot of ways, especially just in the spirit of it, it will be very classic, but you'll get some backstories that are not exactly what you've seen before. You'll get yet another new take on Krypton that will probably crib from lots of different things. I'll predict that too, and I'm always wrong, but I'll predict that too. I think you'll see a Krypton that's got some burn in it, but that has some like animated series in it. And who knows what else? Maybe he'll go and look at some of the stuff like Morrison was doing in New 52.
Yeah.
I can see him. I keep saying this, but like I think Earth One will be an influence on particularly the attitude of his Clark, more than likely.
Yeah, man, I wish we didn't live in the day and age we live, and I could just go into the movie in 2025 or whatever and see the Superman suit on the big screen for the first time.
And
I don't want to see what the Superman
not see it in the
suit's
first
gonna look
place.
like. I somehow never saw the Aquaman suit until I went to the theater, and when he walks out and through the waterfall and it's all shimmery and awesome, I was like, oh, it's amazing. I would love to have that experience with the Superman suit. But I can't, because it's going to pop up a bazillion times in my feed and YouTube and everywhere as soon as they release a photo of it.
Yeah, and, you know, to be fair, you chose to mod the wrong show.
Yeah, I should.
Because as soon as that comes out, we have to do a show on it.
Yeah. But I'm just, you know, that'd be cool. I'd love to see that on the big screen for the first time instead of on my phone. TH1, $5. Sometimes I dress up like the Joker and chase my son around with a crowbar. Have you ever done that with Jason? LOL.
I just want to take a moment. That is a haunting visual. No, I've never done that, Tom. That's disturbing. It's pretty disturbing. If you said, really anything but an actual weapon, and I chased my son around with a crowbar. Oh no, I've never done that.
We do not condone child abuse on this show.
No, we don't.
The views of our super chatters do not reflect the views and opinions of the host or the co-host.
I'm not going to assume that anything has happened with the crowbar, but accidents can happen with crowbars. No, if I chased my kids around with anything, it would be soft and fluffy.
A Nerf gun or a stuffed animal.
A stuffed animal or something. Yeah.
Super soaker.
Yeah, exactly. A phaser that doesn't have anything that comes out of it because it's a toy plastic phaser.
Yeah, a plushy Gorn or something.
Plushy Gorn, yeah, absolutely. I'd probably chase my kids with the plushy Gorn. I don't know. You horseplay with your kids.
He did chase me around with it quite a bit when he was here and he bought it.
I did.
That was fun times.
It's actually true. Next time I come to your place
at Target, he was like, DJ.
I did. I'm gonna bring the Gorn back with me the next time I come see you.
All right. He says, after dark tonight, you're the best.
No, unfortunately tonight I have to prepare for a writers meeting, so I will do an after dark when I get back into town. So the very next Captain Logan show, which will be probably in 2 weeks. Sorry, I didn't look at a calendar. I had it in my head. I kept thinking, okay, two weeks I'll be off. No, probably not. Probably just the one. But anyway, yes, we will do after dark when I get back.
Darren Root says Nerf crowbar. They got to put those out.
They should, yeah.
Merchandising.
Well, if we ever had an adaptation of the Jason Todd stuff, then you'd have a Batman licensed Nerf crowbar. Wouldn't that be great? Like Death in the Family, the Death in the Family trademark crowbar.
I saw I was at Target today and I saw the
under the Red Hood plush crowbar.
I saw a whip for Indiana Jones that was like cloth and floppy. I don't know what kid in the world would want to play. I guess you can't give kids actual whips, obviously.
No, but that's so lame.
It's just like a little stuffed animal. Imagine a stuffed animal version of a whip.
Make it a jump rope. Right?
It was.
I mean, it still wouldn't have the consistency of a whip, but you could at least do something with it. It wouldn't seem like a wet noodle.
Yeah, well, there's a marketing right there. Yeah, I mean, you can't have kids working with real whips. They'll they'll cut their chins open with a whip, like that ridiculous scene, the ridiculous opening scene. Sorry, I've been watching through all the Indiana Jones films with my wife to get ready for the new one. The opening to Last Crusade is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. It is. That
movie's great, but yeah, that opening is.
He gets his hat,
silly.
He gets his whip, he gets his fear of snakes, and he gets his chin scar all in about 20 minutes. It's like X-Men Origins Wolverine on steroids. It's like just shove everything. The character just it's like falling into the Joker vat, and just becoming the Joker. That's what he does on that train.
Well, I was actually going to say that too. It also reminds me of Arkham Origins, with how the Batman Joker relationship is all whittled down into like 20 minutes in an evening.
Yeah, like why do we have to see him get everything that we know? It was goofy, but yeah.
That was prequelitis before we did prequels.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's probably why they do it so much now, and everyone hates it, is because everyone loved that movie when it came out. But everyone's like, hey,
and of course that has a George Lucas connection, and then he kind of invented prequelitis. Not really, but
yeah,
he had a lot of the most egregious of it. It's kind of crazy to think, sorry I keep going back to Star Trek, but it's kind of crazy to think that Episode 1 happens in 99, has some of the most egregious examples of prequelitis, and then Enterprise does it just 2 years later before we've even had any more of those. That's crazy. I just had that thought. Because Attack of the Clones is the year after that starts.
That's crazy to me. In my brain, like, because Star Trek was so, like, outside, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even see anything about it growing up. It was just outside of my periphery. I don't even think of Star Trek going that late into the Star Wars movies. For some reason, it like stops at the 90s for me. Like Star Trek is like a 60s through the 90s thing. And
you're not the only person that feels that way though, because I mean everybody quit watching with Enterprise.
Okay.
You know, like it had really lost its steam at that point for a lot of the fan base and like casual viewers. I have to say it like that because like the diehard fan base, like me, you know, stuck it out and kept watching even with all the issues we were having with it. If only I had known what New Trek was going to look like, because at least it was still sort of Star Trek. But then you had a lot of casual viewers who watched TNG that wouldn't have thought of themselves as Trekkies, but TNG was a cultural phenomenon all by itself. Like, it didn't matter that there was any more Star Trek. That was the show families watched. I mean, the number, I don't know if you realized that, but like the numbers that show had, it was nuts. It was, you know, the number one show on TV for 3 or 4 years. And a lot of those people left right after that because some of them moved to Voyager, particularly after 7 of 9, but and then that was a phenomenon, not anything like to the same degree as TNG when 7 of 9 came on. And then I think by season 6 that had worn off. And then by Enterprise, like, people didn't care. It's like, oh, a prequel to the series that we were only kind of casually interested in anyway. You know, like, the diehards didn't care about the continuity. Like,
so when did Enterprise when did Star Trek end, the Prime stuff?
2005.
Wow, so it was only 4 years when he rebooted. Wow,
he got 4 seasons. And I'll give you a real quick TV history lesson for this. UPN lives and dies by Star Trek. So that was the United Paramount Network. Paramount had been trying to get a TV network off the ground. We just lost like 15 viewers while I was talking about it. It's like if I suddenly just started doing gameplay. Like, nobody cares. Everybody leaves. But I'll tell you about this just real quick. And by the way, I knew this already, but there was a somewhat recent documentary series about Star Trek that's on Amazon right now, free with Prime, called The Center Seat. It's a stupid title, but it's a decent series. It's worth watching. And the first episode of that goes into the history of the like early television side, and especially especially Lucille Ball's involvement with Star Trek and how important she was to getting it off the ground, because that's only really been understood the last few years, and it's a very important piece of it. And anyway, it talks a lot about how Paramount was trying to create a 4th network, and then DJ, by the 90s, they attempted again, and they create UPN, and they come up with this idea of syndicating a first run of a series in the first place. Or actually, I think TNG was that, but then that's what it was. TNG was syndicated, DS9 was, and then UPN is a network, and Voyager is made to start that network. And it's all they had to start that network, and they had to throw it together in just a few months. And then it doesn't do real well. It flounders its whole 7-season run. And a lot of the reason Voyager stays on is to keep that network going. And then by the end of it, Les Moonves takes over, doesn't care about Star Trek, doesn't understand the whole thing, and that network is falling apart. And he cancels Enterprise after its 4th season because he's also ending that network. And then UPN merges with the WB and becomes the CW. That's what the CW was. And so, and now it looks like it's on its probably final legs now too.
Yeah.
And it's just really kind of interesting that you wouldn't have had Voyager or Enterprise if it weren't for UPN, and it lives and dies with that. And by the end of it, all that network really had was Star Trek and wrestling. That was pretty much it. But yeah, just a real quick history lesson on that.
Wow. Yeah, let's see. People are talking about it in the chat. You haven't lost everyone.
That's cool. I appreciate the 5 people that are still watching for engaging in the UPN discussion. Anyway, I know there's more super chats, so let's get to
let's get back to DC. Senior Sticks, $2. DC should just make Batman Brave and the Bold films.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
I don't know if he means just make that for the Batman stuff, or if he just means only that.
That's how, only me, only that. That's how I was reading that, was that, forget about Superman. Nobody cares about Superman. Just make Brave and the Bold.
Honestly, that would probably do better in the parody kind of Spider-Verse world that we're in right now. I think, like you know, besides the Batman, we just had, you know, Lego Batman, which is, you know, a full-on parody, and then people are open to more comedic stuff with, you know, the Spider-Verse. Not saying those are full parodies, but I think people are much more open to that kind of superhero story, more comedic, less serious tone. And I think maybe they could do something like that with Batman, and it would do better than it would have, like, you know, circa 2008.
I agree with you, especially when you have an alternative.
Yeah.
So, like, now's a good time to do jokier, funnier Batman while you also have a super serious franchise that has been accepted, that people are liking. I mean, I think people are probably gonna be open to Brave and the Bold, because even if it's not what they want, if it's fun, if it's worth watching, now you've got, you know, 2 Batmans on at the same time. I always wanted to see that. Batman's so versatile, there's so many different ways to do that character. But also, if it sucks, there's just not as much pressure. It's not as sad for the fans, because they have something to fall back on, and they have a whole other continuity to fall back on, because they're making TV shows and stuff on top of it. So no, I'm with you, and I think, of course, it goes without saying that compared to the Batman, Brave and the Bold will be more comedic. It will be, or at the very least, lighter.
Yeah.
And I assume that's partly why they're going with that title, because traditionally Brave and the Bold has been a lighter title to tell Batman stories with, not just the TV show, but like in comics, that title tends to do not like straight up farcical stories or like super comedic stories, but I mean, it's not, you know, it's Batman running around with different heroes, often in broad daylight, like.
You know, that's something we haven't talked about.
Super dark. Like he can hang out with anybody. He can go off with Plastic Man. He can hang out with anybody.
Hey, if there's anything James Gunn can bring to the cinematic universe, it's Plastic Man.
It's Plastic Man, yeah.
That's something that we haven't talked about. I hope.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the names that they announced. Maybe they've already messed this up, but I hope that with this DC universe, they can keep consistent with the names and give them all comic book sounding names. Because we did that with MCU, but we also still just did generic names like throughout. So it was like we had Civil
it didn't
War.
help that we started with numbers.
Yeah.
Because Iron Man 2 was their 3rd film.
That's what I'm saying. They have a chance now. They know how the superhero market is, and they can start with this DC universe. Batman, Brave and the Bold. Wonder Woman, what was it called? Something.
Well, Wonder Woman's not going to be in the title, and that's a TV show. But that's the Amazon thing. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, but if they could keep that pretty consistent, because it's weird when we got like Captain America Civil War, and then we go to like just Ant-Man, and then it's Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yeah, they have already messed that up, though, unless they have plans for subtitles for some of them they haven't told us about yet. Yeah. Because Swamp Thing, I assume, is just going to be called Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And that all by itself already kind of ruins that, but I hope that movie's not called, like, into the green or something.
Yeah, maybe, and of course that's probably not good marketing, but I would like a universe that kind of had cool comic booky titles. Because what are we gonna do with Spider-Man?
I'm so with you, by the way. I would love that as well. That's a great idea.
Like, what the heck are we gonna do with Spider-Man? Whether Sony takes him back and they make Sony Spider-Man movies, or Marvel gets him back and they make another trilogy with him, like, what the heck are we gonna call it? We're not gonna do the home thing anymore. That was dumb from the beginning.
It was all dumb. I mean, besides the original trilogy now, you know, the original movies just having numbers, fine. Amazing Spider-Man 2, I mean, I always hated that. You know, it's like Taken 2. You know, these are titles that just don't sound good with a number after them.
Taken 2.
Amazing Spider-Man
it sounds like
2.
Well, if they had done, like, if the sequels had all been like Taken to the movies, Taken to
the moon.
Yeah, if they were like Ernest movies, if it was just what's his face? I don't even know that actor's name. He's like disappeared off the face of the earth.
They should have started putting an apostrophe after it, and then just started putting like other things that that like kidnappers are stealing. It's like, taken your dog, taken your wife.
That's true.
Taken your house.
Taken and then colon and then just whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem when you come up with those one-word titles and then it gets really popular.
Yeah.
Like Frozen 2 is kind of a dumb name.
It just doesn't sound good. So with Amazing Spider-Man, let's get back on track. With Amazing the Spider-Man, that naming convention, I would have leaned full tilt into like comic book, or I would have just called it like Part 2 or something. It's just having a 2, like it should have either been number 2 or Part 2. And so like the Batman, they're gonna stay with that, but it's not gonna be the Batman 2. It's gonna be the Batman Part 2, or is it Part 2 or Chapter 2? I forget.
Interesting.
But like that works. But you need a word to separate it, I think, is the problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish they would call it like the Batman something. I don't know. Maybe there's still a stigma where that sounds like a made-for-TV movie, but I don't know. I think it'd be fine.
I like what they're doing better than if we had a colon, but that's just me. But as far as like a new naming convention for Spider-Man, you still have more subtitles for the major comics. Like you can still go with Spectacular. You can still do Web of. You can still do Superior.
That's probably what they'll do, knowing it's Sony.
Obviously, I don't want that, but no, that's not what they'll do. They'll greenlight a. I'd almost bet money on this too. No, I'm kidding. DJ, they'll greenlight a standalone Dr. Octopus movie in a world without Spider-Man, and they'll call it Superior Doc Ock or something like that. But it'll have Superior in the title.
That sounds amazing.
It sounds spectacular.
It sounds web of.
So I think they'll probably go with one of those.
With one of the other names?
With one of the other names. That'd be my guess.
No. Plushie DX says Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. No, because that's the perfect title for Spider-Man Homecoming, and I don't want something else to use it.
Yeah, but if they also... But, like, it didn't get used then, so if they had a good story that went along with that... I mean, that would tell us that it's not going to be too big and he'll be more street level and all of that. Like, if they called a movie that, I would be excited about it, potentially.
Yeah.
You know, just on the principle of it. You know, what... I always hesitate coming up with titles for things when we don't even know what the premise is. You know? We don't even have a project right now. But if Spider-Man moved back to Sony, especially because of how hard Miles Morales has kind of taken over lately, and don't get me wrong, I love the Spider-Verse movies, but Peter Parker's taking a back seat in a way that I don't really care for, especially because people don't seem to really like appreciate what's great about that character anymore. And there's a lot of people that like Miles. I don't think for a lot of reasons other than he's kind of what's big right now, and you know, diversity and stuff. And again, like, I like Miles in stuff, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, there's just kind of there's not a lack of substance in the Spider-Verse movies. but I don't know how much substance there is in like why some people like that character. I do think he is resonating with some people on like an actual, real substantive level, but I digress. I would call a rebooted Spider-Man movie right now Peter Parker Spider-Man, and do your colon, because that was also a comic.
You could just call it Spider-Man Blue. What was that one?
Yeah.
What was that one comic that just came out? Spider-Man. It's like basically like Daredevil End of Days. Spider-Man.
Oh, I don't know.
That? Everyone was talking about it. It's like it was like kind of all-encompassing Spider-Man story that just came out. Anyway, they'll let me know in the chat. What's that big comic
that
book
just
story?
came out?
A couple of years. Last couple of years.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about now that you say that, but I can't remember the name of it. But when you said it just came out, that threw me off, because I'm like, I don't know what I haven't been keeping up with anything. I don't know what just came out.
I don't ever know what just came out. But we do have a $20 super chat.
Oh, wow. Thanks so much. Oh, hold on.
Oh, two gongs. That's what you can expect.
That's what you get. We're making up the rules as we go along, folks.
Spider-Man Life Story. That's what it was.
There it is.
I knew they would know.
And I've reviewed that, but it's been a while.
MP. That doesn't sound like a good movie title. I don't want that for a movie. I was just trying to think of it. MP 1999. What I like about Gunn over Snyder is he clearly appreciates a ton of characters and a lot of different stories about those characters.
Yeah, he wants to adapt.
Yeah. Snyder was only nominally interested in Dark Age deconstruction stories and not much else.
Yeah, and at the very least, there wasn't a lot of legs with that. It was real surface level, real like, isn't this real cool? Isn't it edgy? It's like, yeah, 20 years ago. I mean, it felt like that then, or like 10 years ago.
Yeah, maybe he just never read any of that. He thought he was doing it for the first time.
It just felt a little shallow. I think more the problem was that he had read that stuff, but he didn't realize that had become the norm. That was kind of the mainstream now.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't continue to evolve, or didn't think that the world did. And also, he's just not a storyteller.
Yeah. Boy, that Watchmen, when we finally go back to Watchmen, it's going to be interesting.
Well, and I did recently, and I had the worst viewing I've ever had of that movie.
Oh, no.
Did I tell you about that?
No, I didn't know you went back.
Yeah, I finally showed it to Jason. And
oh, yeah, I think I heard you mention
I thought I
but
told
we
you
didn't
about
talk about
this.
it.
Yeah, or maybe we didn't. But yeah, I had a not as good watch. I still like it, but it hasn't aged the best. I mean, like, I always have to kind of remind myself that it's 14 years old. It felt 14 years old.
Yeah, man, there's some stuff you just don't want to go back to, man.
And
there's some brave little toasters out there.
That's right. There's so many brave little toasters. I can't tell how much of it is. I've seen enough of his movies now. I see his tricks. I see through some stuff that I didn't with Watchmen, and how many of it is just. It just doesn't age great. Like, I kind of think I might have had a similar viewing even if BVS at all had never happened. I don't know. But anyway, we've got 5 minutes before the break. That was a $20 super chat. Do we have anything else we want to say about that?
No.
Thanks, MP. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, that was really. I mean, he covered it. I mean, it's $20 because he explained it so well that he didn't leave much for us to. But we don't disagree with him.
Yeah, definitely. Ren Davis wants to know if I've read any of the modern Peter Parker comics. He says they're truly awful. Miles' comics are better right now, plus the Spider-Verse movies are great. I have heard that, and that was true. I was going to say up until I left, although I was liking Spencer's run. I've heard from a lot of people that falls off real hard.
Ren Davis also says Snyder's problem with Watchmen is that he adapted the letter of the comic, but not the spirit. His sensibilities are just not right for Watchmen.
Yeah, and I don't 100% agree with that. I mean, maybe a little bit more now, having gone back to it. I mean, there is certainly a degree of, like, I don't know, translation and maybe even reinvention that you have to do to take it to the screen, because it's so much meant to be a comic book. I'm not totally sure what you do differently with it visually and like pacing wise and stuff. There's missteps in casting and maybe in some bits left out and things like that. But yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people, that like the general attitude of it is just not what the book was, and I didn't feel like that then. And the tonal issues I was having with it this time actually had a lot to do with score.
The score is not great. I have gone back to that score like every couple of years when I'm like, oh, I'm big into superhero scores again. I'm gonna listen through all my favorite movies. There's some good tracks in that score, but it doesn't feel cohesive to me. There's not like a theme that runs through it that I could hum.
No,
like
it doesn't have a sound, because and the attitude of it feels like, well, we knew that it was going to be mostly incidental stuff, that it was mostly going to be popular music, so this is all just filler. And it almost feels
all over the place. Yeah,
it almost feels sort of like a documentary or something.
Yeah, there's like slow guitar riff tracks. There's like orchestra or whatever, choir voice singing tracks. Like, it's all over the place.
But like, not just thinking about it as a score, does it stand on its own? Can you listen to it? Even in the sequence of the movie, it just feels really TV. In a way that I didn't remember it. There's a lot of
wow, cat beatboxing needs to be a segment on this.
I can't wait to see the comments later that are like, please don't ever do that again. Poochoo pooch.
You want to do this last super chat before we go?
Yes. Well, don't say go. We're gonna take a break. We're not.
We're gonna take a break. And then I need you guys to pop some questions in here while we're on the break, because I've got a lull right now.
Otherwise, we're gonna come back for 5 minutes just to say goodbye.
Your question can be answered right now, guaranteed, unless it's
not right now.
Lewd, unless you're talking about chasing your kids around with dangerous weapons.
Well, you just put up a video 6 hours ago.
What? Oh yeah.
I was sorry. I had to pull up YouTube, and look, it's DJ. I'm talking to him right now. He just put up a video. Everybody go to Films by Keller. DJ just put up a video. Not right now.
No, don't leave. After the live stream, you can go over to Films by Keller.
He's gonna show you all the movies that he bought last month.
Oh, look at this. Cap's doing plugs for me. Wow, what a pleasure.
Well, I gotta hang on. I gotta keep you because I'm illiterate. I can't read. So I need somebody to do that for me.
Not often you see the host plugging the co-hosts, but that's the kind of man Cap is. The great and powerful dog.
I'm just filling time. It's fine.
$1.99 super chat.
Oh, thanks. Oh, hold on. He's giving me the space. There we
I'm
go.
moving the gong. It's like a laugh track. It's the gong track. Most overrated comic book writer ever.
Wow.
Todd McFarlane. Okay, we're going on break. We'll be back.
He's definitely in there for folks that that actually take that book seriously. Yeah, certainly. Boy, I think more about like hit and miss writers that are thought of as can do no wrong. I think Jeff Loeb probably tops that list. Tom King is in there, but he's written certainly more stuff that I would call bordering on brilliant or actually brilliant than Jeff Loeb. All respect to Jeff Loeb. He seems like a neat guy, but and I've liked some of his stuff, but he writes a little juvenile much of the time. And I also would say Dan Jurgens is this way, and I've really appreciated some Jurgens stuff, and of course I love Death of Superman, but like he's not a great writer, and I think sometimes he's a little overrated too.
Tom Atkins said you just scared his cat with your gong, Cap. LOL.
Here, let's see if we can do it again.
It's like whenever we say Alexa, we turn on everyone's smart homes, and when we ring the gong, we scare everybody's cats.
I feel really powerful. Sorry, Tom Atkins, I feel bad. He's never coming back.
This cat is not a fan.
MP wrote 2 of the 3 writers that I just said.
Yeah.
He said Tom King, Jeff Loeb, and he also said Jeff Johns. And yeah, I agree and I disagree. I think 10 years ago I would have said Jeff Johns, but I think a lot of people have kind of turned a little bit on Jeff Johns. I don't mean like, everybody hates Jeff Johns now. I just mean I don't think he is in that beloved, like, again, can't do no wrong place that some people, the regard that some people held him in, like, during his Flash run. Like, during New 52, I think he absolutely had that reputation. And I don't know that he really does now. That was a great question, by the way. All right, let's go ahead and go on a 4-minute break, and we will see you again right after that. And then we will do a second part of this. We'll talk to you for another hour if there are enough questions and ideas to support it. And you know what, though? I also have a couple other articles I wanted to bring up, too. So if we need them, I have them. And we'll see you in just a little bit. All right, welcome back, folks, to the second half of the Captain Logan Show. See, now I can say welcome back because I'm going to assume that most people were, here already as we were broadcasting. Got a couple more super chats, so we'll get right back into those here in a minute. First, I want to say I want to give a quick plug for what I'm doing tomorrow night. Austin is on his own vacation this weekend, so I'm going to be flying solo tomorrow night, and if everything goes according to plan, what I'm planning on doing right now is coming in around 10 o'clock when I usually do, and doing a blind commentary on 2 or 3 animes that I've never seen before. I'll watch an episode or 2 of some animes that folks have suggested to me on Patreon. I almost did this a couple of weeks ago, and then time got away from me and I wasn't able to, but I got a big response on Patreon to this, and so I'm going to do this real haphazard live. I'm going to pick stuff just based on recommendations and give you my live reaction while I'm watching them. So that's my plan right now for tomorrow night. So join me at 10 o'clock Central Time, especially if you're an anime fan, and watch me look at stuff that I don't know anything about whatsoever. Totally out of my element on. I've been meaning to do more kind of newbie anime content, and I have not been able to take the time to run through a whole lengthy anime and do another big discussion like I did with Death Note. So I wanted to go ahead and do this because it's been so long. So that's my plan right now.
All right. Cool. By the way, I was doing this before we left. I saw on my feed a really old picture of the cast, the original cast from the 2005 Fantastic Four film, all standing together in their dated early 2000s outfits, and they were all doing this with like real serious faces. And I guess that was just like a promo. I never seen it. Someone posted it in one of the movie groups I'm in, but I just thought of that for whatever reason when you said 4 minutes, because it was a very funny looking photo.
4 minutes.
We got 2 more super chats here. We got another one from the great and powerful Dodd, $1.99.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't very loud. There we go. I just, even at $2, I gotta make it cat scaring.
The cat scaring gong. Is Star Wars The Acolyte DOA?
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, I think there's a chance that everything they've been announcing still never sees the light of day with the numbers we've had recently for Disney Plus Star Wars projects, and just given the overall lack of interest and how unhappy people have been with Kathleen Kennedy and specifically, but just with Star Wars in general, a more than lukewarm response to Mandalorian Season 3. I haven't even seen it yet. I don't know that I'm going to bother with it. With everything I've heard, it sounds like they didn't give it anything like as much money as the first 2 seasons. It sounds like a lot of the writing staff wasn't there, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong about that, because I'm getting this all just from some reviewers and folks on YouTube that I've listened to talking about it. But it sounds cheap. It sounds like it kind of turned into a little bit of a parody of itself. I lost interest in the Boba Fett show 2 episodes in. I thought it was kind of boring, and I never went back to it. I've heard really good things, and I realized that Acolyte is supposed to be a movie, but just based on the Disney Plus shows, it's hard to say what will happen even on the movie side moving forward with Star Wars. But yeah, I heard a lot of good things, even though people said it was slow moving, about Andor, and I've had quite a few folks asking me to watch that, which is weird because I haven't gotten that with anything else with Star Wars. Even Mandalorian, like, I haven't had anybody ask me about Season 3, and I didn't even review Season 2, and I didn't have very many people ask me about that. But Andor, I've gotten some messages about where people are like, hey, you really need to watch this, it's good. So I might finally take a look at that. Acolyte doesn't sound like a thing that a lot of people would really care that much about, if I'm remembering that project, because I know there were 3 different movies that were supposed to happen, and I think that was supposed to be the high not table. What is that period called? Anyway, that period that nobody seems to care about in books and comics. It's on the tip of my tongue. I'm not a Star Wars guy. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if that will happen. But I even think the Rey project could end up getting axed at this point, and it should, because like nobody cares about that character.
You do.
That's not what people... I used to. Initially. High Republic, I think, was supposed to be that period. Somebody will tell me if I'm wrong about that. Oh, Acolyte was a Disney Plus series. That's right.
Interesting. I haven't had Disney Plus in a while.
But it is still High Republic? Okay. So that part of it I got right, but it's a show and not a movie. Okay. I haven't bothered all that much with Disney Plus in a while. Like I've hung on to the subscription mostly for like movies my kids watch and stuff. But yeah, I mentioned this last week, but I watched the first like half hour of Secret Invasion and have not been motivated to finish it. It was dull. I did not care about anything that was going on. They don't turn the lights on in that show. It's hard to look at. Like, I get that it's a spy thriller, but God, it's not stylistic. It just seems like they forgot to hire a lighting crew. It's not an adaptation of the comic series at all, which if they had, a more cool initial premise, like, that might be okay, as bummed as some folks would be about that. But it's... I don't know. It's just Nick Fury pal around with Talos again, and I don't care about that. I like that actor fine, but Mendelsohn, but I don't. But like the mystery wasn't intriguing, and I heard that the big surprise ending with that was kind of lame, but I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know. So yeah, I could not care less, and apparently neither can the viewers, because it didn't crack 1 million views in 5 days.
That is a shame if that's going to be
apparently
his last big thing in the MCU.
Yeah, isn't it though?
After committing like longer, I mean, he's been in it longer than anyone.
Yeah,
and this is going to be his send-off.
Yep, he goes all the way back. It's sad, but yeah, maybe it picks up. I don't know. I don't mean to call it before I see very much of it, but when I'm bored and I don't care that much, half an hour in with as much else vying for my attention, it doesn't bode real well. But yeah, I don't care. Yeah, Gregory Davis and I talked about the AI thing with Secret Invasion last week.
Yeah. Let me see.
What else do folks want to talk about?
Brandon Keta or Seta.
Yeah.
$9.99. I don't know if that's a new name. It's a new name for me to read. Does WB run the risk of dividing its fans with having 2 Batmans on screen? It's also weird that in 2025 we're going to have a Superman and Batman film come out months apart that aren't connected.
I'll answer that in a second, but I'm sorry, was that a super chat?
Yes. Brandon Seta.
Yeah,
Kate?
That wasn't a name I recognize either. Anyway, oh no, I muted that too quickly. So, my initial response to, like, my impulsive response to, can you have 2 totally different Batman projects at the same time and not divide your audience, is, yeah, if the quality of both of them is up to snuff. And, like, I want to say that Batman is still a popular enough thing and still a character that enough people want to go see stories about, that a lot of people would really welcome that. I want to think. I mean, after all, like, Batman's been alive and well in various mediums at the same time, and a lot of people just cannot get enough of that character. And also, I think you might divide an audience a little bit, and that could actually be a good thing for both of those projects. Like, you might end up with people that don't care for the Pattinson version that will try out Brave and the Bold, that wouldn't have cared as much about that if it weren't for the fact that they were turned off to the Pattinson version. You see what I'm saying? And maybe vice versa once that comes out, where people might be like, well, this Brave and the Bold thing I thought was more what I wanted, but I don't really care for it. And then they'll they'll maybe finally try out the Pattinson version if they didn't bother with it in the first place. I can see some of that happening. So I think you'll have more of the same crowd going to both and enjoying getting different things out of it if they're both good. But I think it's all about quality more than anything else. Having a Batman and Superman movie that close together, again, if the quality is good, can't be anything but a good thing. I don't think. I wouldn't worry about personally. Oversaturation with that or superhero fatigue or anything. I think it'll feel like a new golden age again if it's really good. Again, just seems like a thing people would welcome where it's like, oh good, like the big heavy hitters are back and they feel like those characters we always loved and we're not trying to make them cool again. And like because it's been a long time since anybody's really cared about Superman, and like, yeah, we've got the Batman and people have liked that. But I think you are going to have a camp that's going to be like, it's been so long since I cared about Batman. They kind of ignore that side of it.
Well, it's been so long since we've had any big superheroes. Like, DC really has an opportunity here to swoop in because Marvel is not pleasing people right now. And even if they are pleasing you, they're not using their big tentpole characters.
Yeah. That's the other part of that equation, too, is you don't have the competition like you did.
DC could, take over the reins for a little bit and have a few years and force Marvel to try to renegotiate. Because even though their stuff's not performing as well right now, they still don't have much competition. So they still they don't have like a reason to completely overhaul everything yet, but they could.
Not yet, but I think it could happen. Austin and I were having this conversation today, actually, and he asked me point blank. He basically asked a Captain Logan show question. He said, what do you think it would take for Marvel to decide to full-on reboot? And I said, the next Avengers movie doesn't do big guns or actually bombs, which I think is possible.
Like if it does Flash, like if Avengers does a Flash, if it flashes.
I think it could do twice what Flash did, and still there would be some consideration for rebooting, because that movie is making like less than Black Adam dollars, and it's making a fraction of what it cost to put together. And Avengers movies are inordinately expensive. And given that people don't seem to care about Kang, whether that actor comes back and plays him or not, I don't know how much of a selling point that can even be at this point. I don't think it is at all. I think it's going to have a dynamite trailer where the Kang thing either finally wins people over, he looks menacing, he looks scary, or he looks fun. And I mean, the nice thing is people didn't see Ant-Man, so like it's easy for me to say like, people didn't care about Quantumania, so of course they're not going to care about this. But some people not even still know who Kang is because they didn't bother with Quantumania, and maybe there's a chance at making Kang look cool this time and forget about any of the setup. So I don't mean to like talk myself out of an argument or whatever, but I guess that could happen, but it's going to have a dynamite trailer, and either Kang is going to have to finally look super cool, or everything else about that is going to have to look like I can't wait to go to the theater to see this movie. And I don't know what cast you'd have to put together to make that happen, because most everybody they have right now is kind of BC list, have not caught the world on fire as singular characters all by themselves yet. So like that would have to happen. And then the 1-2 punch, I think, that would really make them consider rebooting, DJ, is that movie doesn't do very well, and then Fantastic Four flops. Because I think Fantastic Four and then X-Men after it are the next potential real saving graces of the MCU. Because those are characters people have heard of and have been popular, at least in different media. I realize FF has had a bad track record on film, but I do think that if that movie is a cosmic masterpiece, maybe it doesn't have to be a masterpiece, but like if it's an epic cosmic kind of sweeping, grabbing our imaginations like Guardians of the Galaxy did kind of film, it could turn the ship around.
Well, yeah, Fantastic Four, man. Fourth time. If you fail 4 different times, we're never going to get Fantastic Four on screen ever again. Especially if MCU fails. But I'm worried about MCU, man. I'm not worried about Fantastic Four. Like,
yeah.
From the beginning, I said this from the beginning, like, Hulk or like 2012 Avengers era, they make Tony Stark way too smart in the MCU. He's like, I wish, because you got your sections in the MCU. You've got Bruce Banner, prime super genius on gamma radiation, and then Tony's supposed to be a super genius on like. Did I freeze?
No, you're good.
Okay. So Tony is like your engineering genius, and then you've got Beast, who's a different genius, and then but Reed is supposed to be like the smartest guy, right? Like he's supposed to be, he's specialist on some things, but he's supposed to be a big smart guy. But when everyone else is already a super genius in the MCU, like Reed doesn't have a thing. And then also they took all of their powers. Like Miss Marvel has stretchy powers, and she can turn into rock. And she has invisible shields.
Yeah, people called her a super Skrull.
Yeah, she has all her powers. And then they did the microverse in Ant-Man. Like, they made that whole thing like his thing. So what the heck? They're taking all the Fantastic Four stuff.
That's true.
They're really going to have to...
And even after they knew they had the rights back and they were going to do stuff with it.
It's going to be
In fact,
tough.
everything you're talking about is after they got the rights back.
Yeah, except for, like the
except for Tony Stark being as smart
thing.
as he was.
But I don't know, man.
No, I still think that could have worked okay, because Reed still could have had some things over him when it comes to the cosmic stuff. Like, all you had to do is say Reed figures out time travel and you're good. Like,
but Tony figures out time travel like
I know, but you were complaining about it before any of that happened.
Yeah, and then he makes Ultron instead of Ant-Man, so then Ant-Man doesn't have Ultron, so then Ant-Man has to have the microverse. Like,
and that whole thing was weird because that was right around when Ant-Man came out. Like, they do... What was the order of that? Wasn't it Ultron and then Ant-Man?
Yeah,
wasn't Ant-Man the very next movie?
Very next movie, yeah. And I'm not saying it's bad because it's different from the comics. I'm just saying they've written themselves into a hole
but it's
where,
weird
like,
when you put them out the same year and.
Yeah. The first superhero family is now coming out at the end after all their thunder has been taken.
The first superhero family is coming out when we're talking about the potential for reboot. And I'm not saying it's going to happen next Thursday. I think they've still got probably 5 or 10 years to limp along, but it's looking more dire than it did even a year ago to me. I gotta say, like, I'm not invested. I have been invested in a couple of projects that are done now. There's nothing down the pike that we really know anything about that I'm super stoked for. I'm theoretically excited to see what they do with their Fantastic Four, and then eventually what happens with X-Men, though we don't even have a greenlit project for that yet. We do for Fantastic Four, but I mean, that's way down the line, even FF now. What is it? Like, what is it supposed to be, 27, 26, 27?
And I think it might be related. I think having Tony Stark be such a central piece of the MCU where he's got his hands in everything. He's Ultron. He does time travel. He's all of Spider-Man's villains. Like, everything revolved around him so much that when he leaves, the universe falls apart. Like, if Ant-Man had made Ultron, if Reed had come in and done the time travel, like, if they had given other sectors of the Marvel Universe and made it feel like more of a universe instead of Tony Stark show, I think we wouldn't be bombing so hard right now. And things are falling apart without him.
That's a really interesting point. So you think that fans would have been more invested in some of those characters because they were more central to the mythology?
Maybe. I think it could be possible. I don't know why Tony Stark had to be the linchpin in every single movie he was in. I think we could have made it more feel like a more full universe, but
some of that turned into just the MCU is a little too big for its britches, a little bit too full of itself, a little addicted to its own history. So it's like we started to look at Tony Stark the same way we did Stan Lee to some degree.
Yeah.
You know? Here's the thing that started all of this. Let's throw all our eggs in that basket to be safe, because nobody's ever going to disagree with us that this is super important and everybody will always applaud when it comes on screen. And, like, Tony Stark has continued to be that important posthumously.
Yeah. Gregory Davison says, when Tony died, it feels like the main character disappeared from the story.
And a lot of people felt that way. And most importantly, a lot of, like, not comic book people like just regular viewers that were all invested in going to the theater felt that way about it. And I've said this a lot, but like they really shot themselves in the foot with that, and what they did right after it needed to be just as good as what came before it, or at least were really intriguing chapters of the beginning of something new. And they splintered themselves, they spread themselves out too thin with a lot of projects that people thought they needed to look at in order to understand the whole universe and did not care to. Like that was the big mistake they made, and everything just felt smaller in the wrong way, and samey, and going through the motions again in too much the wrong way. And I've had people argue with me on that and say, but like, you know, just after Endgame, all these projects were like so much more different than what we'd had before conceptually, yes. And you had a couple that really were like Eternals, but nobody liked them. Nobody cared about them. And I don't think Eternals would have performed well. Let me back that up. I don't think Eternals would have been liked that much more pre-Endgame, but I think it would have done more dollars.
And we got to think about how much of this is superficial iconicness of those characters. Like a lot of the stuff that they're doing, and I know that's superficial, but that's why these characters have lasted so long. That's definitely a part of it. Like Eternals is a bunch of guys in black robes. Like kids don't want to play with those toys. Like
yeah,
Shang-Chi doesn't have a costume. He's just wearing like a red, kind of.
Oh, the toyetic thing is so important.
Like yeah, like all of the characters with costumes. I mean, you got
and they all were for a decade. They all were, except for Black Widow, maybe.
Yeah. Now everyone looks like Black Widow. Like we have Captain Marvel, who has a costume, but like everybody else is it's hard to sell stuff, which is a big part of superhero movies, which is not their fault. I mean, that's just the characters they have at this point. They don't really have iconic looks, but
it's their fault in getting too much of that out in the first 10 years and then not hanging on to enough of them. And I think part of the problem too was they just expected too much interest in the Disney Plus shows, and they just weren't of the proper quality.
Yeah,
and
the streaming basket.
And there's a feeling that some of that stuff got too pandery, and that they were too worried about the politics of some of it. Like I hear a lot of that. There's definitely people concerned about all of that side of it.
Yeah, I just wish those shows were good. I mean, in theory it would have worked. Like that could have been the second leg of the MCU. That could have been Iron Man.
But like that's where they put a lot of the characters that I still cared about, and then suddenly they kind of ruined Falcon for me.
Yeah, they Netflixed it. They were all super decompressed. There was no point for them to be shows.
And I was stoked for Falcon Cap, man. You know, and now he's getting a movie, and I'm not excited about that. I don't care.
I hope they turn you around. For your sake, I hope they turn that around, and it's a fun movie.
So I wouldn't bet my mortgage on this, but I would bet you a heaping amount of gummy bears that I'm not gonna love that movie, and I hope I do. Don't get me wrong, of course, but it's the same. I don't know why gummy bears, but it's the same writers as that show. I don't have any hope for it. And I don't want to put too much stock in this, but we got a quote yesterday or the day before from Harrison Ford. Did you hear about this?
No, not at all.
He's about to shoot a scene with Anthony Mackie, and he says, "Let's shoot this piece of S word." Yeah, that bodes well. Nah, he could have just been being silly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to take any stock in that.
He says that about every single movie he shoots at this point.
Yeah, is that his cut the check?
He's just a crotchety old man at this point. Well, he's been for, decades. That's amazing. Well, we'll see. We'll see what his Indiana Jones is like. That came out today.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not going to see that.
Times they are changing.
I've heard enough that, and I'm not a big Indiana Jones guy in the first place, so I wasn't sure if I was going to go to the theater, but I won't tell you anything, but I've heard enough about that turns me way off to it. I'm not going to bother with it.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. Everybody go see Asteroid City, though. I saw that last week. That was great.
And I don't mean to be like, oh, somebody said things that sound not good, so of course it must be terrible. I'm not gonna go, but like, it's not a huge franchise for me in the first place, and there are just some like factual things they definitely did that I don't know how they could have presented it in such a way where I would be okay with it. like.
Somebody says first S word of the MCU. That can't be true. Is that really true?
What are we talking about?
Like what you just said about
it's an
Harrison Ford.
Endgame.
Yeah, I feel like
it's in movies before Endgame. I'm almost positive.
Well, I feel like the Guardians say that word.
I think they do. Yeah. In the first one, give a S word is in that movie.
Yeah.
Right. That's a pretty standard swear word in family films.
Well, and I haven't seen Guardians 3, but I hear that they even dropped the Marvel's first F-bomb in that movie. They did.
It's funny, too.
I
like that they did that in kind of a throwaway funny place. It's not a dramatic moment.
Yeah, I heard that that was just an ad-lib, and it just made them laugh so much that they just kept it.
It wasn't in the initial script, but it was something that Gunn came up with while they were shooting it.
Yeah.
So it was an ad-lib in that way.
Let's see, where are we? We got Great and Powerful Dodd, $4.99. Interested in Hickman bringing the Ultimate Universe back to comics? Wow.
Sorry, Spoon Dude says a Cap calls out Tony for saying the S word. I called him out. I was just talking about Harrison Ford saying a thing on set. I don't understand. Anyway, sorry. What was it? Was that a super chat?
Yes. Interested in Hickman bringing the Ultimate Universe back to comics?
You know, I wasn't initially, just because there's so much. You know, well, we got to go back to what worked before, because nobody cares about what's happening in comics, and it just feels like we don't have any original thoughts. And I got so sick of events being redone over and over again. I mean, it was bad enough when we had events every year, and now we have the same events all the time coming back. I mean, just the industry feels like a dog chasing its tail now. But it's Hickman, and he is a really good architect for universes, and there might be something cool there. I may check it out. But I am going to read some of the new DC number ones. They've had a Rebirth-esque relaunch, and I've heard a lot of good things about all the books that are coming out from there. And so Austin and I and Dan are going to try to do a show talking about a smattering of new number ones. They'll probably already be on number 3 for some of those books by then. Maybe even 4. I don't think so, though. I think they're only 1 or 2 in at the moment. So we'll be behind, but we can at least help people decide if they want to try to get back into DC, because I know a lot of our audience is in the same place I am, just not reading new. And it'll be the first time I've talked about new comics in a real long time. So I'm excited to do that. That'll be in a couple weeks.
Spoon Dude was not talking about you. He was talking about Captain America giving Tony.
Oh, I see. The language thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, my name is also Cap.
It's confusing. He's got a hero complex.
Wrong Cap. Sorry.
He puts himself on the same level as Captain
No,
America.
I don't. That's not what I mean. It's just, my name is in the title of the show. I thought people were talking about. I don't mean to be narcissistic, but my name is in the title.
Now he's giving himself gongs.
Gregory Davidson is Cap's anime thing. No, it's what I do now when I want to throw something.
Instead of the pillow scream.
Gregory Davidson is Cap's anime thing tomorrow, Patreon exclusive. No, and thanks for asking me to reiterate or not to elaborate on that. I took Patreon exclusive suggestions, but I will be broadcasting that to the full audience.
MP, another
if you want to add to that list, you can become a patron. But I've already got like 14 suggestions, and I haven't decided what I'm going to pick yet. So the odds are not great that if you suggest something else, it'll wind up on that show. But because I'm probably only going to do 2 or 3 things.
Yeah. The barely viewed Cap's knee on the Captain Logan show joining us this evening.
Goodness, yeah, I should get a tattoo there.
MP, from comics do you not want in the DCU?
Wow.
Not want to see. Well, Damien, Cap.
Yeah, stuff they're doing. I mean, I don't care about. I don't like Booster Gold. They're making a Booster Gold show, so no, I'm kidding.
So
Hopefully that's cool. Hopefully I'll like him better than I have in other things, but and I have liked him okay before. I just in general don't care for that character in the premise. But anyway, let me think, because I'm sure there's stuff. There's more stuff I just don't want them to do like right away. And some more recent things, like mostly Batman stuff, you know. Like I don't want Court of Owls. Maybe someday. It's just we've been doing so much of that in extra media. I don't need Batman Who Laughs. There's a lot of more recent things with Batman that I would be fine, you know, not doing. And I don't want and I'm sure we won't get this right away. I don't want the only couple things we ever do in Superman. Like, I don't want Zod. If you give us a Zod flashback on Krypton like we had with the Donner movies, that's acceptable. I mean, I get why you would do that, maybe to set that stuff up. And I will go on record again and say I don't want Death of Superman. The time has passed. It's never been done well. I know it's the thing that got me into that character and one of the huge things that got me into comics, but I'm like, the novelty is gone for me. I'm not even gonna get excited about the potential for that unless we have a Superman continuity that goes for like 4 or 5 movies and there's a really cool take on it and like it really earns it after I've you know, lived and breathed with that character in that world for a long time. I can see eventually wanting that, but or being okay with it being announced, but right now I'm like, no, don't do that again. And of course, we're not going to do that right away, like some crazy people might do. Almost right away.
People saying, I don't want to see Batman Who Laughs. I second Court of the Owls. Don't want to see I want a more silly, less homicidal Joker. I'm sick of edgy Joker, says Gregory Davidson.
Can I meet you halfway and say I want a Joker that is funny, but not necessarily less homicidal? I mean, Joker's a maniac. He should be homicidal. I think the right balance was struck with Dark Knight, and we just need that again in a slightly different form. You know, like, it doesn't have to be about all the same stuff, and it doesn't even have to be anything like Ledger's characterization, but I just mean I'd love a Joker that I'm laughing at and then questioning my own morality when I'm laughing at it. That's what I want from the Joker. I realize it's not technically his introduction, but the first scene, you know, outside of the mask with the buses, when he does the pencil trick, like, everybody in the theater laughed at that, and it's gruesome, and it's wonderful. Like, we need that again. So yeah, I'm not with you on less homicidal, but funny again would be wonderful.
Another super chat from Brandon Seta, 499.
I'm getting good at this.
Yeah, the timing is impeccable. One of the biggest issues of the MCU is killing off your characters. All you're doing is putting an expiration date on your universe. Should have recast.
Yeah, so I don't actually agree with the recasting thing with the MCU. I think there is, and I'm saying all this with hindsight. I mean, I'm being an irritating armchair critic when I say this, because
isn't that your professional role?
It really is, yeah. It's the, you know, I'm really just a semi-professional fraud at the end of the day.
Check him out on LinkedIn, folks.
What I what I always say, of course, is you can make anything work. You just have to make it work. So, I think the problem was ultimately the execution post killing off the two major like beloved characters in that world. And I think, like I said earlier, I mean, I don't want to sound hypocritical, like, it does feel like you got rid of too much in, you know, that first 10-year period. If you want this to go for a big long haul, I mean, 10 years is a really long time. It would have honestly been kind of acceptable, to me anyway, to play that all out, 10, 11 years, get to the end of Endgame, and then, yeah, do the full-on reboot, and not recast, because it's Marvel and not DC, you want your characters to be able to get old and have a real beginning, middle, and end. It'd be cool if we could keep phasing characters out, but the problem is eventually you're going to run out of characters that are already popular, and it's going to be that much harder to get people into them, and not everybody is real compelling and brilliant on the page in the first place. So you have so much work you have to do to keep making people love these characters. And then they've had some bad luck because they lost Black Panther, and he was the other character they had that was at that level of popularity. And they had Spider-Man, and he's not an Avenger, and I don't want him to be an Avenger, and they kind of, in my opinion, screwed the pooch with that too. So some of this is execution. I don't agree that the problem was not recasting, though, because that could also be a double-edged sword. How much of the popularity of Iron Man was Downey? Just recasting that, especially if the writing isn't there. I mean, keep in mind that too much of what people, just on a dialogue level, too much of what people loved about that character was Downey writing his own lines. Like, you bring somebody else in, and now you have to write everything. Yeah, I mean, you essentially just lost a writer on your character. Can we go that far? I think we can go that far.
The WGA would. Yeah, and they would have had to do so many things differently with the MCU in order to start doing that, because it was so much. They kept it in real time so much, and it was like they called this has been around since 2008. Like, they kept using real dates and real years and stuff. It would have had to have been conceptualized as a different, looser continuity if they wanted to just James Bond it.
That's what I always said. I had a debate with Eric about this back in 2016, where he said, "Oh, they'll definitely like they're not going to get rid of Iron Man and Captain America. They're too popular. They'll definitely recast." And I said, "I don't think they will," and they didn't. And like, there's a part of me that, like I said, really likes that strategy, but they played Endgame as too much of a definitive ending of all of this. What I started to say a minute ago was, it felt like they got rid of too many characters in that first 10-year period, 11-year period. But then they actually didn't. What it more was is they kept characters around, relegated them to Disney Plus shows that nobody cared about, and then tried to put them on the big screen again.
Yeah, they really ruined the MCU by trying to make a play on the streaming wars, which everyone is losing at this point.
It's very easy in hindsight to say that was stupid. Why did we do that? But those of us diehards that were really invested in MCU, we were all rooting for it. I mean, like most of us subscribed to Disney Plus. We were ready to support it. And when I say support it, I mean, give it money, hope it's good, and keep watching. Not support it because we picked a team and we have to stay with it even if it sucks. That's not what I mean. A lot of us were real into WandaVision when it started. That seemed like such a new, fresh, different direction.
It was exciting,
to take a thing. And then it didn't really stick the landing, and we were like, well, at least it started cool, and it has some good episodes, and even at the end...
even at the time, it stuck the MCU landing. Like, it felt like, okay, this is an MCU thing. Like, but then when all of them do that, it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just being irritating armchair hindsight guy, let's say you had everything in that first year already made. Forget about Christmas. Take Christmas out of it. The first MCU show should have been Hawkeye.
Forget about Christmas.
It should have. Because
you could have done Black Widow already got a movie, so yeah, Hawkeye's the next.
Because Hawkeye's an Avenger, so it would feel like a big enough deal. And I mean, or should have been the second thing after WandaVision. WandaVision was a good thing to start.
Was a good start. It was so fresh, so different.
However, in kind of leaning people into the TV side and getting people to subscribe, maybe Hawkeye would have been smart, just because it was a more traditional kind of standard superhero kind of thing, and then you get into the weirdness of WandaVision. But I wish it had been earlier, because it felt a lot more like a I don't know, let's say Phase 2 Marvel project. At the same time, I also wish it had been a movie, because I think people would have gone and would have loved it as a movie. And I don't even, this is not even me even saying it's too slow. I think the pacing of that show was fine. I just think more people would have watched it if it was a movie.
Sorry, you're talking about Hawkeye?
I'm talking about Hawkeye. I think more people would have watched it if it was a movie.
Oh, that would have been cool. That would have been so cool.
I think you passed the torch to the new Hawkeye, and she would have been a new, really well-liked, if not beloved character. And I think Kate's been lost in the shuffle because Disney Plus had already lost enough people at that point that, like, it did better, I think, numbers-wise than some other shows. But if that had been a big screen movie, I think it would have performed. I think it would have done better than Ant-Man numbers.
It would have been great. It would have forced them to tighten it up a little bit and get rid of, like, you know, the ridiculous
Kingpin wouldn't have been there.
Yeah, get rid of Kingpin. Get rid of the ridiculous, like, medieval fighting group in the second episode that goes on for way too long. Like, tighten it up, make it a really, really tight Hawkeye movie. Pass the torch. That'd be awesome.
Plush DX says WandaVision wasn't even supposed to be the start. That's right. What was? Was it Loki?
I think it was Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, that's right. And that would have been a smart first show, assuming it was better.
Yeah, that was what I remember you saying that at the time. Like, oh, it's a bummer that we're not starting with that because that's the biggest thing you have.
It also makes a lot of sense to transitioning out of Endgame. Just because you just sent off Captain America, and now we're going to see the new one.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to get a story about, two guys fighting over the mantle.
Yeah, because that's the ending of that movie. That would have been great. I haven't watched that show, so I can't speak to it. But
well, it wouldn't have even bothered me as much if it had started bad. But I liked the first 2 episodes fine, and then it was all downhill from there.
Okay.
Gregory Davison makes a great point. He says, all the young Avengers are going to be elderly by the time we see them again. MCU is stretched too thin, and it takes too long for sequels. I agree with that.
Yeah, why are they setting up so much stuff? Just pick a lane and go.
Yeah.
When are we going to see Kate again?
Probably that Avengers movie, right? I mean, I hope she's in that.
Maybe she'll be like in the end credits of Miss Marvel or something. I don't know. She's been totally, but she's doing fine. She's in Spider-Verse. The actress is.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Totally fine.
I forgot that was her. Well, I just adored her in that show, and I wish that could have been a movie.
Yeah.
Again, the show is good. I mean, it doesn't have the best ending, but I mean, even the ending is more solid than some of the others. But
yeah.
But more people would care, and that's not me going. Movies should be more, like, justify things more, be a bigger deal than TV. It's just they lost interest from people after, especially Falcon and Winter Soldier, but even Loki.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. John Ty, $5. Right on topic. Do you prefer eating chicken wings boneless or with the bone?
Wings, boneless.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, they're just chicken nuggets at that point.
Yeah, I mean that's all right. I don't know. I'm not a big. I'm not a big fan of, like, biting around cartilage, I guess.
Well, yeah, I don't eat wings either.
Is my whole thing.
Never really got into it, but
well, that's what I mean. I'm not really a wings guy. So if it's gonna be wings, then I guess I don't really care what part of the chicken it is if I can get it boneless. But I like to eat chicken legs. Okay.
You're okay, I like biting into, like, a bone form as long as there's enough meat.
Yeah.
Without having to, like, tendons getting in your way and stuff.
Yeah, because also wings, like. I'm not a big, like hot wings guy. Like, I don't want to sit around with a basket of hot wings and eat them. Like,
same.
I much prefer. Here's a couple of drumsticks. They're huge. That's your meal. You're done. I don't want, like,
turkey leg.
6 wings. Yeah, turkey leg. Yeah, that's awesome. Sure. Let's do that. Let's do that right now. That sounds wonderful.
All right. Well, hold on, guys. We gotta drive 5 hours to each other. Meet in the middle. We're gonna get some turkey. I don't think you can get turkey leg except for, like, an amusement park or a
Renfest.
Renfest. Yeah. Ren Fair. Let's go to the Ren Fair. Cap and DJ go to the Ren Fair.
Oh, I would love to make that video. Let's do that.
We can continue that series. We did Cap and DJ go to Barnes and Noble on my channel. We got to keep that series going.
Well, and we have one of the best Renfests in the country in Kansas City.
Oh.
Yeah, you should come here. We'll go to the Renfest. I know a guy that can get us in for free.
What? That's amazing.
And yeah, I've got a guy. I've got a guy for this. I shouldn't say that out loud. I won't mention who it is, but I've got a guy for that. He's great.
That's amazing. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to offend when I was bashing that Hawkeye scene earlier.
Oh, Jeffrey Patron is in the comments. Hello,
Jeffrey. Sir. What's up, man? He leaves
says,
comments on my channel. He's such a cool guy.
It's not even rub it in. I haven't seen Jeffrey in months. You're like, oh, he's on my channel.
No, he oh no, he retracted his comment. We've embarrassed him. Oh no, we get gong. If you retract your comment, you get a gong, guys. That's the rule.
There are no rules. It's absolute anarchy here.
No,
Do I look like a guy with a plan?
No, Jeffrey just he's into classic older movies and he buys some Criterion, so he always pops in when I do one of those videos. So it's cool.
Now all we got from him is howdy both. I was about to read his comment and then he retracted it.
Oh well, sorry.
We
didn't mean to out you in the chat, but it's good to see you.
I'm gonna stop getting excited when people I like show up. I'm just gonna read their comment in the first place. How many more super chats do we have, sir?
We just have one, sir.
Does this not feel like a 15-minute show that's gone on 2 hours? Like, I don't know how we're almost done.
Yeah, well, time flies when you're being silly. And we do that
when
for a living.
armchair critiquing 14 years of a franchise.
Yeah, we did kind of get into a speculation, or like an opposite of a speculation.
Anti-speculation.
What do we call that? Where we speculate of why something failed, like in the past.
Yeah.
Like retro speculation.
Yeah, because you're still speculating because you don't know what exactly went on behind closed doors.
A spectrospective. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, it's a working title.
Yeah, that didn't come out in my mouth the way it sounded in my brain. I thought those words went together better, but they don't. So we'll continue to work on it. That's only the thing I'm going to do because I don't care about speculating about the future. I only speculate about the past. So I'll come on for those.
Hey,
Austin will still do the speculation cast.
If we ever do our Renfest video, we should make that the weekend we swim on camera.
Retro speculation. That's what I was trying to say.
That's good.
I flipped it the wrong way.
I like that better. Yeah, I can see the logo for it.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's what I meant. Skip that part, guys. We'll cut that out in the edit.
So what you call it?
Take 24 hours before it actually works.
What you call it? That's right. Retro speculation.
Speculation, yeah. Retrospective speculation.
I like that. No, I like that a lot.
DJ's announcing a new series on the channel that he's inserting himself into.
I only guess it's stuff that happened already. Okay, let's get these super chats knocked out.
All right. Captain Hindsight will be joining us on that show.
Captain Hindsight.
Thomas Lowe 86.
Oh, I didn't let you finish his username.
We've thrown off his timing. What do you think about bad Marvel and DC movies? What do you think? How bad?
Start over.
Gosh, this is hard to say. What do you think?
Not as easy as it looks, folks.
Movies? I think he forgot many. I think he forgot. What do you think? How many bad Marvel and DC movies have to do before a Marvel versus DC movie event could happen?
I don't think bad MCU movies would necessarily have anything to do with that. I think that's just a matter of, unless you're thinking they would try to get in bed with Disney in order to save the whole kit and caboodle, where they're like, we're so desperate now. But I think that's a thing that they would jump at, especially with James Gunn being over there now, where he's got a great relationship with both companies. I think if the potential for that was on the table, if somebody were to float it, and then the heads of both of those companies were in favor of it, I think it would just come together and it would just happen. That's actually, so I don't know if that actually has anything to do with like a certain number of bad movies would have to be made before somebody would think to do it. I think with Gunn over there, that's not a desperation play necessarily.
Yeah, he seems like he would be kind of down for that. I think he's kind of hinted as much on his Twitter at some point.
Has he really?
I don't know. But that seems like something he would do. I don't know. Yeah, that's.
And I'm not saying I want that, but I just don't think that it's outside of the realm of possibility anymore.
It seems like that's where we're heading with all the multiverse stuff.
I know it's, a few years ago that would have sounded crazy with Marvel and DC, at such high levels of competition. But I mean, given that the tables might be turning, I'm not going to say they have yet, but where DC will have this kind of new golden age, and people will really be on board with those and go into a lot of their movies, and Marvel will be in this, I don't want to say necessarily dark age, but just place where they're not performing the way they used to. People have not stayed invested. It might have been. Tell me what you think about this. Would it be more difficult for James Gunn to get a new DCU off the ground? I still hate that, by the way.
Good.
Would it would it be more difficult for him to get that off the ground if people were still invested in Marvel, or would that just be a boon to both companies? Or is it going to be ultimately really good for DC now that people have lost interest in Marvel?
Well, this is, out of my territory of the past, where I only speculate about, but I will answer this one for you.
It's present.
Yeah, I do speculate about the past and the present. I'm not the future guy. Not future's not for me.
Well, then you're just wearing a cliched robe with like a blanked out face. You'd be in the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah, I thought about that look. That's but I didn't go for it. It doesn't pick up on camera.
Doesn't translate.
Yeah. So what was your question?
Oh, it was long, convoluted, and complicated. Do you think that people like the MCU, falling out of favor with people, is going to now be more of a boon for the new DCU, or do you think it would be just as helpful for them if people were interested in both?
Ooh, that's a hard question to speculate about the present about.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, because you could see it either way, right? That's where we wait 10 years and then we look back and we just Captain Hindsight comes in and then we can sound smart. But yeah, I don't know, because it would be better if people seem to be down, or like more down on superhero movies right now because Marvel's kind of fumbling the last few.
Because they saw Marvel as Marvel in superhero movies as synonymous.
Yeah, so I could see it both ways. I could see, people aren't into superheroes as much, so they don't care about DCU either, or they still are, thirsting for that superhero fix, and DC swoops in and scratches that itch for them. Here's DJ's knee. So we saw Cap's knee earlier. So yeah, I could totally, it's like 50-50. I have no idea which way the cards are going to shake out.
All I know is it seems to be the same with movies now as it is with comics. They can't both be good at the same time.
Yeah,
that's what we've learned from this.
And we've yet to see if either of them are going to be good in the next couple of years.
Well, that's true, and that would be an absolute travesty. I'm more than hopeful about DC. I think there's going to be potentially a lot of stuff over there that I'm not going to immediately love, but that will be good, solid movies. That's what I think is going to happen. But I've got a lot of confidence in Superman.
Yeah, I hope it's great. That'd be nice. Nice way to start the universe off.
And obviously, who knows? But he's a good storyteller. I've said for years that I want to see that even before he got this job, that I want him to get Superman because I'm curious to see if he could do it. And now I'm getting that. And I like his casting. But I have this history with James Gunn films where I have to see them 3 or 4 times before I really appreciate them. Didn't have that with the Guardians. Guardians I fell in love with from the very beginning. Okay, we still have lots of super chats. We're already over 2 hours. I'm going to start talking faster, and let's get through them. Go ahead. How many do we have? 5 or 6?
Just 3.
Oh, okay. No problem. Go ahead.
Chewbacca's Lover, $5. Glad you brought back GNN. The channel was truly missing something without it. Sorry I missed it. So many live shows. Came into some money recently. Oh,
good. Glad to hear that.
Give it to us.
No, but that's great. Good for you. So, yeah, it just seemed like a good idea. And it's funny because all I really did was just bring the name back and put it on discussion videos that don't happen to be the Captain Logan show. Like, it's not. We didn't really do anything beyond just here's conversations Austin and I have been wanting to have. Like, even the speculation cast, we could have put under the GNN umbrella. We just didn't. Like, we could have kept occasionally having those. I've done 2 of them, and the last couple of weeks we've had very long, because we've been doing them the same when we do them, because we're not doing them every week. But when we do them, we've been doing them the same night as the request. In the last 2 weeks in a row, we've had 12 issue comic runs that we've had to, or comic series that we've had to tackle. So there was no doing those the last couple weeks, but we have some ideas for other topics we'd like to do. Happy to take ideas from people for topics, and we might even take sometimes really good questions from here that we can elaborate into an hour-long show. And we brought rants back too. I guess that's the only thing in that we're really doing that we haven't been doing anywhere else.
Nice.
We occasionally.
Did you also bring back boom boom boom?
Yeah.
Boom 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 boom. Oh, it's amazing. I didn't even know. I didn't listen to those. I gotta check those out.
Yeah. They're not big DJ topics, but.
Nah. Well, let me know when you do a big DJ topic. Maybe.
Well, we'll bring you in for one.
Yeah, only if it's about the past.
I don't know what yet, but oh, it will be. It will be.
Jeffrey Patron, $5.
Oh, thanks, buddy. And he didn't even retract it.
You gonna give him a gong? You're not gonna give Jeffrey a gong? There it is. Jeffrey, he really doesn't like you, pal.
I want to say I got one job, but I have more than one job.
Jeffrey says, always good to pop in here. Hope everything is going well for y'all. Apologies for the message fumbles.
Oh, no problem. Thanks, Jeffrey. We appreciate you, man. Yeah, you said something about, like, Geekvolution in the medieval times.
Oh, interesting. Now I'm interested in what he said. Did he say medieval times? What is that restaurant called?
He's talking about that restaurant, yeah, the medieval times.
Yes.
Every time somebody brings that up, I'm reminded of the Cable Guy.
Is that in the Cable Guy?
It's in the Cable Guy. They go to medieval times, and it's the most cartoony part of the thing, because for some reason they have Lirpas from Star Trek at the medieval times. I don't know why they have that, which are big like Vulcan scythe-looking weapons, and it comes from a original series episode called Amok Time, and Jim Carrey's swinging it around, quoting Spock from that show and doing the music from that episode, the battle music. And it's really funny. He's like, it's great. And but I'm always reminded of this great line. It's one of my favorite lines in the movie, where there is this waitress that comes up, and she's super deadpan, and she asks what they want to order, and the guy that the main character in the movie that Jim Carrey's with says he'll have a Coke, and she says there were no Cokes at the medieval times, and then the guy goes, oh, okay, but they had forks. It's great.
That's interesting, because I don't think we had forks when I went. I went there twice in high school because our mascot was the knight. So they're like, we got to go to medieval times for all the field trips.
Yeah, he says we would have to. I mean, I've never been to one. He says we would have to transform into the medieval times so that we could get turkey legs. That's how we get turkey legs.
Oh,
is the channel becomes a medieval times.
Hey, I'm down for that.
It took us half an hour to get there, but we got there.
Mystery solved. Case closed.
I wish they were all this easy.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for cheering us up. Bob
okay, we got to finish up.
2 super chats from Bob the Hun about James Gunn. Not a Dr. Seuss book. James Gunn talking about comics the way he does alone makes me excited for his DC universe. I want him to take over Star Wars based on that alone.
Yeah.
Good grief. He's just
enough.
Captain Hollywood. Takes over everything.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want the same guy to run too much. And I mean, there is that concern about potential burnout and stuff. But I feel like the way he's tackling it, he seems to be a smart guy. He seems to have the right attitude about it. And it's going to be weird talking about, one guy with superhero movies for a long time. We had that with Snyder. For a long time, you're just talking about the same guy for a long time. About a lot of superhero movies. Even though, I mean, he only actually really made 3, but because he was kind of the I guess you can't even say the word gatekeeper anymore. I don't know. All these words have been commandeered. I was gonna say he was the gatekeeper of the DCEU. He was the guy spearheading all of it. He was kind of the showrunner. His name was gonna come up in every review for a long time, even if he didn't make the movie. And now we're gonna have that with Gunn.
Ernest Dog 20 says it was actually the other way around. They had Coke but no forks.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
That makes more sense because I've been there and they don't have forks. So it's like the movie got it wrong.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
You got everything else right.
It was a good joke. That's all that matters. I just told it wrong. You had to be there.
So there's a mollusk and a sea cucumber. Bob the Hun, $5. Again, James Gunn is so much better than Taika Waititi. He probably remembers that Natalie Portman was in Star Wars. Give it to him. Probably read the comics. He really wants the Star Wars James Gunn thing going.
Yeah,
he really doesn't like Taika Waititi.
I can kind of see why. I don't know. I think the Waititi thing that was an unfortunate moment for him. I think if people liked his Thor movies better, it would be easier for folks to kind of forgive that. Where it's like, I mean, to be fair, he hadn't even made a Star Wars movie yet. Like, it's weird that I could see people complaining that it's weird that you would give it to a guy, and I don't mean to take up too much for Waititi because I don't like the movies I've seen of his, but it is kind of weird to give it to a guy that maybe doesn't know anything about Star Wars. But then, if you're a good filmmaker and people like what you've made in the past and they think that you can work in their franchise, is it a prerequisite that you already know the franchise? Like, now what you'd hope, and of course he wouldn't necessarily, but what you'd hope is that person comes in with the skills they have, with the expertise they have, and then they really get into it, they research it a lot, and now they know the thing. So all I'm saying is, if he had made, or was it because he directed an episode of a Star Wars thing? Maybe that's what it was. Did he actually come in and direct one of the? I can't remember. What I was going to say is, maybe that's what it was. I was going to say, if he had directed a Star Wars movie, it gets kind of weird if he doesn't remember that Natalie Portman was in Episode 1. Even just directing like an episode of a TV show, I don't know. Like,
he's also just
how
seems to be
big of a
like
deal is that really?
A goof. I don't know. He seems to be such a goofball in kind of like, and has the sense of humor of kind of like Austin, where he would think that's funny, and he wouldn't care that people think he's dumb. He would just to pretend that he didn't know and think that's funny. And I don't know.
That's definitely not what happened with that, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. With that in particular, it became clear later because Natalie Portman talked about this recently, and I think they talked about it later together, where he had just forgotten that.
Oh. Which is, I don't know. That's kind of fine, I guess, if he just doesn't go back to those movies.
Well, we have one more.
I've never even seen those movies, and I know that she was in those. Chewbacca's Lover, $5. One more. Taika Waititi has a pattern of bragging about ignoring or not caring about the source material. This is a pattern. See, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and that's why I was saying, all things being equal, like if he hadn't even really made a Star Wars movie yet, is it really that big of a deal that he doesn't know that much about it? But is he going to come in and take the kind of care that, say, Nicholas Meyer did with Wrath of Khan, where like he wasn't a Star Trek guy, didn't know anything about it, but like he did his homework when he got the assignment? Yeah, probably not. So I get why people reacted the way they did, but it's a bigger deal if he's actually, doing very much in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had just remembered that John Tai, he said Waititi directed an episode of The Mandalorian, because I had forgotten about that. But even so, like, I don't know, an episode of a thing, like, you're acting as a workman director, somebody's bringing you in for a TV show.
Yeah.
But anyway, well,
Jack Black and Lizzo came in for an episode of Mandalorian. So.
And Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, wow.
Has dialogue with Jack Black in that episode. and everybody said it just kind of degenerated into a sitcom for that episode.
That's amazing.
All right, we really appreciate all of the interaction and support tonight. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again in a couple of weeks. And I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Central, just watching some anime for the first time. So pop in for that if you are so inclined. I'm going to fly solo for that. I'm just going to watch some stuff with you guys for probably a couple hours. And then I'm going to go on vacation after that. In the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was DJ Martinez.
Bye, guys.
Later, everybody. Appreciate you.